Some of you may know that I don't eat fish or seafood or anything from the water really, and there is a reason for this. Let's go back in time to when I was about 5 or 6 years old. There's this big park in Vernon called Polson Park. In the park there used to be a shallow pool. Every Father's Day they would fill the pool with fish. They charged $5 per fishing rod, and you could go and you could catch a fish and you could take it home and you could eat it. Yes. My grandma and I did this every year. She liked to fish. You know that moment you can see on a 5-year-old's face where they become really aware? It happens a lot. I see it all the time. They all of a sudden become this tiny human being and they go, you're gonna need to reference that moment during this story. Hold on to it. So I got my fishing rod and I put it into the pool. I feel something. I scream. I scream the way only young kids can scream when they're excited. My grandma says, reel it in. I did. This fish came up onto the deck of the swimming pool. It was flopping around. That's how a fish flops. I was told to catch it. I chased the fish around the deck. I'll give you a second to imagine that. Finally, I catch this thing. What do we do now? What do I do now? My grandma said, hit it on the ground. So I did. This is where you need to remember that face. That moment of realization and self-awareness that only a child gets. I chose this moment to have that moment. I screamed. This wasn't that excited scream that only a kid can get. This was a horrified, crying scream that only a kid can get. I ran, crying. I didn't know where I was going. I still had the fish in my hand. I arrived at the playground and stopped crying, you know, like kids do. And then, as if it was a film, I looked into my hand. I started screaming again. I ran all the way down the street and to the car. This time I had been smart enough to drop the fish in the playground. My grandmother, following all of this, met me at the car. She had the fish in a plastic bag in her hand. We arrived at home and my grandma started to cook lunch. I didn't know this at the time, but she was cooking the fish. I was served it for lunch. I cried. My grandma insisted. I had killed it. I had to eat it, which is a good policy. You shouldn't be allowed to take another life unless you're prepared to eat it. I wasn't. To this day, when I bring fish or seafood to my mouth, I cannot put it inside physically. I can feel vomit in my throat and I want to cry and run away. I just can't do it. I just can't. Please tell me in the comments about one of your childhood traumas so that I feel normal. I'm gonna wait for that thing. Hi.